Yo, what's up guys? It's Noah here, and in today's video, going to be talking through some player props I like this week for NFL for the Week 1 Sunday slate. I'm making this video on Friday, but I want to give you guys some props I do like for these games on Sunday. We're just going to be focusing on the games Sunday. We're not going to take a look yet at like Monday Night Football or anything like that. I will have a separate video out probably late Sunday night giving out props I like for Monday Night Football. But for this video, focusing on the Sunday games, and I got 4 props that I'm going to share with you guys in this video. Typically for these videos, for the full Sunday slate of games, I'm definitely going to give out at least like 3 or 4 plays, just because there's so many props on the board, there's so many options to choose from. Usually, it's pretty easy to find at least 3, 4 plays I like. And as always, I will be giving out more plays over on Patreon. Those will probably go up, sometime maybe on Friday, maybe Saturday. I'll definitely try and get them out, before Sunday, obviously before Sunday morning. So probably Friday or Saturday, I'll be posting more Prizepicks plays over on Patreon. You guys can check that out if you are interested. Linked down below in the description. But as always, guys, we're going to talk through the plays I do like this week, share why I like them. But before we do get started, though, as always, if you guys do enjoy these Prizepicks videos and if they do help you out, make sure you hit that like button down below. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet. And if you guys are new to Prizepicks, be sure to check them out. Sign up for Prizepicks. Use that promo code NOAH. When you do sign up, you'll get your first deposit matched up to $100. Do want to remind you one last time, Prizepicks does have a free square available this week. As you can see on the screen, Dak Prescott's passing yards is set to 0.5. This is a free pick that Prizepicks is giving you. Make sure to use this. If you want to use it with the picks I give out in this video, you can do that. If you want to make an entry yourself and use the free square in that entry, you can do so. But definitely take advantage of that free square. Take Dak Prescott to have more than 0.5 pass yards. And then again, you just have to find any other pick you'd like to pair with that. You can pair just 1 pick with the free square, or you can pair up to 5 picks with the free square. You can go for a 25x payout. It's just kind of how you want to play it. It's really up to you. But again, guys, if you're not on Prizepicks yet, make sure to sign up. Use that promo code NOAH, and you will get your first deposit matched up to $100. I do want to also give a shout out to Sleeper. We are now partnered up with Sleeper, guys. And if you're not on Sleeper yet, get signed up for Sleeper as well. Use promo code NOAH over on Sleeper. You can download the Sleeper app either on the App Store if you have an iPhone, or on the Google Play Store if you have an Android. They have an app for both. Or just go down into the description, click the link in the description. You can sign up there as well. But Sleeper also has a free square available this week. As you can see at the top left of the screen, Christian McCaffrey's rushing yards is set to 0.5 over on Sleeper. That's a discount that you can take there. And again, that's available all the way up until that game starts on Sunday, so you have plenty of time to get that in. In Sleeper, it's pretty similar to Prizepicks, but the way Sleeper is different is that they do offer a dynamic payout system. So on Sleeper, the payouts do change based on whether you take the over or the under on a certain prop. But Sleeper, there's not a ton of limits. Like, you can make entries up to 100x payout. So if you're one of those people that really likes to go for those high payouts, you can do that over on Sleeper. You can win up to 100x over there. There's also not a ton of limits when it comes to like a minimum payout. I think the minimum payout used to be like 2.5x, and then they lowered it back down to 2x. I think when you do use the free squares, it has to have at least a 3x payout. But still, there's a lot of ways you can make entries over on Sleeper. Sleeper does offer a lot of the main sports, NFL, college football, MLB, obviously NBA they'll offer when that gets here. So if you guys are not on Sleeper yet, again, sign up for Sleeper. Use that promo code NOAH. Get your first deposit matched up to $100. And be sure to use that Christian McCaffrey free square over on Sleeper while it is still available. Again, that will be available until that game starts on Sunday. But let's talk through the Prizepicks slate, guys, and some props I like this week over on Prizepicks. We got 2 fantasy score props I like this week. We got a pass completions prop I like, and then we got a rush attempts prop I like. So we're kind of all over the board. Fantasy score, though, we'll start off there. And the first fantasy score prop that we're going to be looking at this week, want to talk about Joe Mixon, 15 fantasy score. I like the over here for Joe Mixon. I like him to have more than 15 fantasy score. And for those of you that are unaware how Prizepicks fantasy score works, it's very, very simple. I mean, if you've ever played fantasy football before in any sort of league, it's pretty much full PPR scoring. So, obviously the touchdowns or, passing touchdowns are 4 points. Rushing and receiving touchdowns are 6 points. Passing yards, you get 0.04. So basically 25 passing yards is 1 point. It's pretty much the same scoring format that every fantasy football league uses. But the only thing about Prizepicks is it is full PPR. So you do get 1 point per reception. Everything else is pretty self-explanatory. But looking at Joe Mixon this week for 15 fantasy score, we know that Joe Mixon is going to have a massive workload pretty much on a weekly basis. If you look at this depth chart for the Bengals, there's really not a ton of guys behind Joe Mixon that you're worried about taking touches away. Samaje Perine is not on the team anymore, and he was a guy that the Bengals used a lot last season. Like him and Mixon kind of split touches, 50-50, sometimes like 60-40 favoring Mixon. Well, this season they don't have Perine, so you're going to be looking at guys like Chase Brown, Chris Evans, Travion Williams, and none of these guys you expect to demand a ton of volume. These are just going to be guys that they probably use just when Mixon needs a rest and stuff like that. I'm expecting close to 20 touches almost on a weekly basis for Joe Mixon this season. The volume is going to be massive. He's playing in a great offense for the Bengals that puts up a lot of points almost every week. And this is a really good game environment as well against the Browns. If we actually look at the full Sunday slate of games, this game does have the second highest total on the slate. The highest total game on the slate is the Chargers and Dolphins. That game has a 51 total. But this game has a 47.5 total, which is the second highest on the slate. So points are expected to be scored in this game. And it's also a pretty good matchup for Joe Mixon. If you look at where the Browns ranked last season in terms of their run defense, they were pretty vulnerable against the runs. The Browns did give up the 5th most rushing yards per game to opposing running backs, and they gave up the 6th most fantasy points per game to running backs. We know Mixon's going to get the volume. He's going to get usage in the passing game as well, and that's why I like fantasy score here. Rather than taking rushing yards or something like that, with fantasy score, you just have a lot more outs. Guys can score touchdowns. They can catch a lot of passes. There's just a lot of ways that Mixon can go over this line, and when he's going to be on the field for probably 75-80% of the snaps, when he's going to see probably 15, close to 20 touches, the volume alone I think makes this play look pretty good at 15 fantasy score. And the projections that I do look at, they have Mixon projected closer to 17 fantasy points. So I think with this line at 15, that definitely looks like a pretty nice discrepancy. I'd be fine playing this up to like 15.5, 16, 16.5. If it gets like near 17 at that point, I think I just kind of fade it. But at 15, this definitely feels a little bit too low for what should be a workhorse running back in Joe Mixon. So that's the first play I like for today. And then the other fantasy score prop I want to talk about, another running back that should have a pretty big role this week is going to be Jamal Williams. 9.5 fantasy score. Also think this line's a little bit too low. So I like Jamal Williams to have more than 9.5 fantasy score. Now Jamal Williams is on a completely different team. Obviously not on the Lions anymore. He is now on the Saints. He was going to be Alvin Kamara's backup. He's pretty much going to be Kamara's backup kind of the whole season. They're going to kind of split touches. But Kamara's suspended right now. Kamara's not playing, so it is going to be the Jamal Williams show for the first few weeks of the season. And again, this is a very similar situation. If we take a look at the Saints depth chart, I mean, there just are not a ton of guys behind Jamal Williams you really expect to take touches away. Tony Jones Jr. has been on the Saints for like the last few years. He's never been a guy that's really demanded a huge workload. They do have a rookie, Keandre Miller, that they're probably going to involve. But again, I do expect Miller to be more of a backup. I don't expect him to get a ton of touches. I mean, he might not even play this week. Like, he was a non-participant in Thursday's practice. I think he'll probably play, but we don't have any update there. There's just, again, not a ton of guys behind Jamal Williams that you really expect to take touches away. The one negative this week, I guess, with Jamal Williams is that this matchup is pretty tough. If you look at where the Titans ranked last season in terms of run defense, the Titans actually did have one of the better run defenses in the league. They were pretty stout against the run. In terms of rushing yards allowed to opposing running backs, they gave up the second fewest rushing yards per game. They gave up the third fewest fantasy points per game. So the matchup is definitely not great, but this is just strictly like a volume play. Jamal Williams is going to get the touches. I wouldn't be surprised if he gets more usage in the passing game as well. The Lions did not really use Jamal Williams in the passing game at all. But when Jamal Williams was on the Packers, when he was splitting touches with Aaron Jones, Jamal Williams was pretty heavily involved in the passing game when he was on Green Bay. Obviously, he's on a different team now with the Saints. He's playing with Derek Carr. Derek Carr's a guy that will definitely check the ball down to his running backs. I could see Jamal Williams getting a couple catches here. And obviously, on Prizepicks with the full PPR scoring, getting running backs that can catch 3-4 balls, that just adds so much floor and upside to their fantasy score. I should say upside. For fantasy score, if you can get running backs that can catch passes, obviously it just adds the opportunity for them to even score even more points, just to add on to their rushing up, the rushing yards they get, potentially rushing touchdowns. And obviously Jamal Williams last season was a guy that scored a ton of rushing touchdowns, led the league in rushing touchdowns last season. If the Saints get near the goal line, you would have to assume that Jamal Williams is going to be the guy punching those balls in and getting those touchdowns. Maybe they go to Taysom Hill, but I would think it's probably going to be Jamal Williams. So not only just does Jamal Williams have that goal line rushing touchdown upside, but the volume this week should be really good. The carries should be there. He might be more involved in the passing game now that he's on a different team. 9.5 fantasy score is not really that high of a line. I mean, obviously, If Jamal Williams doesn't score a touchdown, he's probably going to have to get like 50, 60 rushing yards and a couple catches to go over this line. But that's doable. The real question this week, or for this scenario with Jamal Williams, we don't really know his pass game usage. What kind of pass game usage he's going to have with this Saints team. But if he's getting usage in the passing game for 9.5 fantasy score to go along with the carries he's going to get and the rushing yards he should get, I'm fine taking this line at 9.5. And by the chance he scores a touchdown, it's almost certain he's going to finish with more than 9.5 fantasy score. So that's the other fantasy score play I like for today is Jamal Williams, more than 9.5 fantasy score. And again, looking at the projections that I look at, they actually have Jamal Williams projected for almost 13 fantasy points, full PPR scoring. So at 9.5, I mean, that's a huge discrepancy when the projections I look at have Jamal Williams for almost 13 fantasy points. So yeah, that's the other fantasy score prop I like for this week. And then got two more props I want to share with you guys. We're going to look at the pass completions category. Go down to Jimmy Garoppolo, 20.5 pass completions. Also like the over here. I like Jimmy Garoppolo to have more than 20.5 pass completions. Now, this is a play that I really, it's hard to give a ton of analysis on this play. This was one that I looked at for DK Sportsbook. And just looking at Sportsbook odds, this does look like a pretty, kind of plus EV play. Because right now, if you look on DraftKings Sportsbook, they actually have this line set at 21.5. It is favoring the under, minus 130, favoring the under 21.5 pass completions. But getting this line at 20.5 on Prizepicks is some value when DK Sportsbook, one of the sharper sportsbooks in the world, has this line at 21.5. So I like this over here of 20.5 pass completions for Jimmy Garoppolo. Obviously, Jimmy Garoppolo also on a new team this year, playing with the Raiders, not on the 49ers anymore. And Jimmy Garoppolo, when he was on the 49ers, he did not throw the ball a ton. The 49ers were definitely set on running the ball whenever Jimmy G was there. But if you look at a lot of the games where Jimmy Garoppolo did throw the ball like 30 plus times, he was able to get 21 pass completions in a large majority of those games. And if we look at Garoppolo's for this game, his pass attempts prop is set at 33.5. And that line is actually juiced minus 135, favoring the over for Garoppolo. But if we look at games last season where Garoppolo had like 30 plus pass attempts, again, a large majority of those games he was able to go over this completions line as well. He had 37 pass attempts against the Saints, 26 completions. 37 pass attempts against KC, 25 completions. 41 pass attempts against the Falcons, 29 completions. Did have 30 pass attempts against Carolina, only 18 completions. But 32 pass attempts against the Rams, 23 completions. 35 pass attempts against Tennessee, 26 completions. A lot of these games where he's had 30 plus pass attempts, he's had at least 21 completions. And again, his pass attempts line this week is set at 33.5. That's pretty high. And Juice is favoring the over. He's actually favored to go over that pass attempts line. If he throws 34 plus passes this week, I think we got a very good chance of Garoppolo completing at least 21 passes. Just looking at over his last 25 games where he's had at least 34 pass attempts, 26, 25, 26, 25, 28, 27, and 29 pass completions. Again, that's old data from when he was on the 49ers, so it's kind of take that with a grain of salt. But I think more times than not, if Garoppolo is going to be throwing the ball 30 plus times, maybe 35 times, I would bet on him completing 21 of those passes. He's typically been a pretty high efficient quarterback. He doesn't throw the ball deep down the field. He throws a lot of quick routes, quick slants, and with Devontae Adams, a guy that catches a lot of passes, doesn't drop a lot of balls, there should be a lot of easy completions for Jimmy Garoppolo in this Raiders offense. So that's the third play I like for this week, guys, is Jimmy Garoppolo more than 20.5 pass completions. And then the final play that I like is going to be a rush attempts prop. And we're going to look at Raheem Mostert, 12 rush attempts, and this is another over that I like. So we got 4 overs this week. Going to be rooting for some overs here, but more than 12 rush attempts for Raheem Mostert I do like this week. And this is another kind of plus EV play because if you look on DraftKings Sportsbook right now, and if you go to the rush attempts props category, right now Raheem Mostert's rush attempts prop on DraftKings Sportsbook is set at 12.5, and it's favoring the over, minus 125, favoring the over 12.5 rush attempts. I'm very surprised this line is at 12 on Prizepicks, given it's 12.5 on DK Sportsbook and Juice is favoring the over. I assume this line probably gets bumped up to 12.5 at some point. Hopefully by the time you guys are watching this video, you'll still be able to get this line in at 12. But let's talk a little bit about Raheem Mostert and kind of why I like this prop, not factoring in, obviously, the sportsbook odds, which are very important. But there's another couple reasons I like this prop, and it's kind of a similar situation that Joe Mixon and Jamal Williams are in. There's just not a lot of guys in this Miami backfield that we expect to take touches away from Raheem Mostert, at least not right now, because Jeff Wilson's on IR, and Jeff Wilson was going to be kind of the primary backup to Raheem Mostert, if not maybe the starter, with Mostert being the backup. Well, now without Jeff Wilson, we're looking at guys like Salvon Ahmed, who's been on the team a lot, but like never been able to carve out a big role. And then they do have this rookie, Devon Achini, I don't know how to say his name. He's probably going to be involved a little bit. But other than Achini and Ahmed, I mean, there's just really no one else on this roster that you even worry about taking touches away from Mostert. So I think Mostert's going to have a pretty big role right out of the gate for the Dolphins. And this is a really good matchup against the Chargers. Not really saying like matchup matters here, because obviously when we're betting on rush attempts, we just want volume. You know, we don't care if Mostert gets. It doesn't matter if Mostert averages 2 yards per carry, as long as he gets 12 carries. You know, we're gonna cash his play, or 12 or more carries, I should say. But if we do look at the Chargers last season, the Chargers were very vulnerable against the run. So we might see the Dolphins running the ball a little bit more here. Last season, the Chargers did allow the second most rushing yards per game to opposing running backs. And then if you look at rush attempts, they were about middle of the pack in terms of rush attempts allowed, but they did give up a lot of rushing yards. They were vulnerable on the ground, so I could definitely see the Dolphins leaning a little bit more on their run game here, because this matchup is so favorable for the running game. And you know, I think the volume's going to be there for Mostert. There's not a ton of competition for touches behind him. And if we take a look at last season, in games without Jeff Wilson, last season, the final 6 games, last season, Mostert did have 6 games. His last 6 games that he played without Jeff Wilson, these are his rush attempts in those games: 15, 18, 14, 16, 14, and 17. Those are the games last season that Mostert played without Jeff Wilson. Then there was one game he only got 8 rush attempts, one game he got 11, one game he got 15. But last season, towards the end of the year, he got a lot of carries in some of the games without Jeff Wilson. You know, that was back when they had Chase Edmonds. Obviously, Chase Edmonds not on the team anymore. But you look at the guys behind, you know, Mostert this year without Jeff Wilson, there's not a ton of guys you're worried about taking touches away from Mostert here. So I think Mostert's going to have a pretty big role, going to have, you know, pretty good volume. And with DraftKings favoring this line over 12.5, getting this line at 12 on Prizepicks is some pretty good value. So this is what I'm liking this week, guys. Some early plays I'm liking. Again, I'm recording this video on Friday. I'll be sharing more plays this week, though, over on Patreon. I'll be sharing some entries I'll be playing over on Prizepicks and on Sleeper. Again, if you guys are not signed up for Prizepicks, make sure to sign up. Use that promo code NOAH. Get your first deposit matched up to $100. Take advantage of that Dak Prescott free square while it is still available. And then on Sleeper, if you guys are not over on Sleeper, we're partnered up with Sleeper now. You guys can sign up for Sleeper as well. Use promo code NOAH. Get your first deposit matched up to $100 and take advantage of the free square they have available as well. Christian McCaffrey, 0.5 rushing yards. Obviously, take the over there, and then just find any other plays you like to pair with that. Some of these plays I gave out in this video, you could take on Sleeper. I think some of those are available on Sleeper, so if you want to take those on Sleeper, obviously you could do that as well. But make sure you guys are signed up for Sleeper and use that promo code NOAH when you sign up to get your first deposit matched up to $100. But that's what I'm liking this week, guys. That's what I'm liking for Prizepicks. Some plays I'm liking: Joe Mixon, more than 15 fantasy score. Jamal Williams, more than 9.5 fantasy score. Jimmy Garoppolo, more than 20.5 pass completions. And Raheem Mostert, more than 12 rush attempts. If you guys are going to be tailing me on these plays, wish you the best of luck. Hopefully we can cash out this week. Super excited to be watching some NFL this Sunday. Going to be sweating out these props, and hopefully we can all make some money this week. Let me know down in the comments some of your guys' favorite props this week. I'm always reading the comment section, always replying to all your comments. But again, guys, appreciate your support. Hit that like button if you guys enjoyed. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet, and we will see you guys in the next video. Best of luck this week, guys, and enjoy the games on Sunday. Peace.